Hey everyone, I'm Eric Carlin, one of the co-founders of Ivy Experience, and I'm really happy to be here today talking with Keith Siegel from the Interview Advantage. I'll give a brief intro here, and then there's a lot that we want to talk about. Keith and I have known each other for almost a decade, but the Interview Advantage is a more recent venture that he started. And especially with everything going on in the world of professional hiring today, let alone getting an internship or a job if you are a college student. Um, and how did I even get there through that sentence without saying the letters AI? But there's a lot going on, more than ever. And we here at Ivy Experience really pride ourselves on the relationships that we develop with students. While we are focused on academic and extracurricular planning and SAT and ACT prep and college essays and applications, we even do grad school essay support. Uh, we stay in touch with our families for years and years. We've had several students get married and and have babies recently, which is amazing. And this is all my way of saying we are still talking and have close relationships with families when their students are graduating from college and getting their first jobs. So this is a topic that's been on our minds here a lot, especially recently. And Keith and I were catching up. We were talking about the interview advantage. And I said, Keith, we should do a little chat and interview so that people can find out about, first of all, you, but also more importantly, how do we navigate this crazy world? So, Keith, do you want to share a little bit about how you got into this world and what the interview advantage is?
Certainly. And Eric, thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to be with you and your audience. So, I've been in the world of enterprise technology sales as a sales leader for several years and many years, and have been doing interviews for a decade and a half. And as part of that journey, what I've seen is a demonstrable shift in how people approach interviews, how they prepare for them, how they communicate themselves and their worth. And it has gotten worse over time. And while my focus has been on, more seasoned um, professionals, what what has unfolded is I've been involved in many an interview with people who are newer in career, and there are noticeable gaps as they are interviewing and communicating through the interview process. As part of that, I had a journey with my daughter the better part of 2 years ago as she was exploring her own internship experience, which has led into a full-time job. And the work that I did with her manifested in a tremendous outcome and a tremendous experience. And I reflected on the value that I have delivered for my own daughter, for sure, and also the experiences that I'm seeing in the workplace, and decided it was appropriate in time to help this generation of young professional and student really understand what was necessary and what is necessary to be successful in the application and interview process. And so the genesis of the interview advantage was a culmination of the experiences I had, the work I had done with my own daughter, and the program that I put together. And my clients have seen some incredible success as part of their journey with me, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. So I need to ask, what is the interview advantage? And we'll get more to your organization later. I want the literal answer to that. But in this case, to start off, I want to know what separates a great interview from an ordinary or average or unforgettable interview.
Yeah, Eric, it's a great question and one that I've given a lot of thought to. And really, a great interview stands out by transforming what is a standard question and answer session into an incredibly compelling narrative and conversation where the student can clearly articulate his or her value, the motivations that they have, and their fit for the role. It's something that a typical or ordinary applicant is just not going to excel at. And so, in my experience in hiring and doing several hundred interviews, what separates the great ones, frankly, is the mastery of their personal story having a very strong why statement and understand their core motivations that explains their drive, their resiliency, and how they've overcome obstacles and the lessons learned. And so when students apply the kinds of principles that I share as part of the client experience, they come out with the kinds of um, opportunities that they would otherwise not have. So great, I just described. Average is they cover the basics, but they fail to connect with the interviewer. They fail to have the right tone and tenor in the conversation, the wrong intonation, and poor body language as well.
It's funny. I don't know if we've even talked about this ever, but in my essay brainstorming, the one question that I ask everyone is, what do I need to know about you? But the origin story for that is when I was in high school and I was prepping for college interviews, my dad was giving me advice, and the only piece of advice I remember and it always stuck with me is said, before you go into an interview, know the answers to the questions before you hear the questions. And I think that really speaks
Right.
to knowing your own narrative and knowing what stories and details you want to share going into an interview. And to me, that's one of the reasons, Keith, that, when we look at this technological revolution in the past year or two with AI, um, I, at least in an advising role, am not threatened by AI from the standpoint that so much of brainstorming for an essay or developing that compelling narrative for an interview is all about the input to get the output, right? And I know that for us, and I, believe for you, so much of the advising is how do we get that input? How do we get those compelling narratives and stories? The flip side of that, though, is AI is having an enormous impact on the job market. And I'm wondering, in your, professional experience and connections, what have you seen, especially let's limit it to like the past year? How is AI revolutionizing the job market, and what impact and influence is that having on interviews?
Yeah, love the question. And Eric, and especially the focus on the last year. So I'm going to talk about in the context of what it means for an applicant and the driver behind it. So in the work that I do in enterprise technology and working with the Fortune 200, one of the big hallmarks that every single one of them, and I would argue probably the Fortune 2000 are now embarking on this, is finding every single dollar they can in their business that they could take out as cost to reallocate to AI initiatives. So think of it, they're renegotiating contracts with existing vendors. They're cutting programs that have nothing to do with AI because the productivity gains that these organizations are seeing are massive. This is transformative, and it's less akin to the internet, and I'd say it's more akin to like electricity or the printing press. It's going to be that dramatic of a shift, and it's going to happen incredibly fast. So, what does that mean for the last year and for hiring? What applicants, especially entry-level applicants, are going to see over the next 3 years is a compression of the number of opportunities. Based on what I'm seeing now, it'll be 20 to 25% compression of entry-level jobs going away. Now, that is an enormous number of entry-level jobs that will no longer be available in the corporate white-collar world because of the impact of AI being able to do a lot of the work, right, that an entry-level employee might take on, and to do it faster and better, let alone the fact that you don't have the cost of the employee. So the implication of that, Eric, is that you, as an applicant, the student, the junior looking for the internship, the senior or the recent college graduate, needs to stand out. And the success is going to hinge on the human differentiators. That is, what is it we can share as compelling stories? We talked about the narrative earlier and the stories. what is it that we can share to craft the story that showcases the why, showcases the resiliency in overcoming obstacles? Because if students don't do that in a market that is going to compress 20 to 25% on just the pure opportunity in the market, they are going to be left out in the cold. So the services that we're delivering at the Interview Advantage are really honing in on how does one differentiate against your competitive peers, knowing that the compression of the job market is going to make it even more difficult. This is the single biggest threat to young professionals today, and they need to take this seriously. One other point that I'll add, it's not just going to be entry level over time. Students who are going to be early in career will be moving into mid-career will need to leverage the skills that I teach and for which they gain, part of the commitment they have with me. They will be able to take this and utilize this as they move throughout their career because AI and the compression of the job market is not going away.
Yeah. Sobering to think about, and it
It
will be
is.
certainly interesting to see how it all plays out. So, with that said, what are the essentials that parents and young people need to know about the interview advantage? This time, talking about the company that we.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So, the Interview Advantage is a curated 6-week program with 15 sessions designed specifically for college students. Again, juniors looking for their internships, or seniors or recent graduates who are looking to enter the job market. Um, the personalized coaching that we focus and deliver equips students with proven strategies that I've seen work in my career, and that includes mock interviews, storytelling mastery, pardon me, and tailored responses that showcase unique value. And I really want to emphasize, you've heard me say value a few times. It's true that each student has their own unique story and value, and my work is to distill it, bring it out, let the student own it, and then sell it. And the program hones in on understanding the student's background, their personal motivations, their skills. And we use this to build the why statements, the accomplishment stories, the resiliency stories that really differentiate the student. And then the other part is really about coaching. So we coach for interviews, whether it's in person or on Zoom, and we're focused on intonation, tenor, how they lean in, body language. Those are all the pieces that really matter when you think about the actual interview. And the program includes 3 live fire mock interview practice sessions with me where we're going to go through technical, behavioral competencies. And then the other piece that's really important is on the fly, I'm throwing curveballs out at the student so they understand how to be what I call audible ready to address their audience. And then the other piece that's really important is for parents that they need to know that we're not delivering generic advice. Like it's precision coaching, and it starts with a deep understanding of their student and then crafting the personal narrative, moving into certainly strategy and practice that helps with the student communicate their value. And frankly, it's an investment that addresses the frustration of the resume send outs and the stalled job searches. And then the other piece that's worth calling out is where the career centers in college have failed, and they have failed, is where my services and what we deliver on executing for the students really shines through. And the students really need to know that they're walking away with tangible assets that they're going to be able to take through their career, as I described earlier. And it's going to give them a clear competitive edge against their peer group applying for the same finite number of jobs for which they are going to be compressed because of the AI implications.
So, before I let you go, obviously, there's a lot that you're packing into those 6 weeks and 15 sessions. But for anyone listening now, if you were going to drop one or two nuggets of wisdom for that like what I need to know when I start thinking about interviews and applying the jobs in your many years of experience, what would you say?
I'd say the biggest takeaway and parting wisdom is going to be master your personal story. Focus on the value you can bring to your employer, not what they can do for you, what you can do for them. It's about proving your worth, and it's about confidently articulating why you're the best fit. And you do that through having a strong why statement, strong accomplishment stories, strong resiliency stories that demonstrate how you've overcome obstacles. Mastering your story is critical. And without a doubt, the single biggest differentiator a student will have as they compete for the job.
When you say mastering your story, I do have to, this is almost self-indulgent just because I can hear myself for 15 years saying this with essays. Um, I oftentimes talk about that this idea of details, right? Details are, supreme in this realm. You have to use specific details when you share those stories. Is that something that you echo? Does that translate off the written page and in a verbal interview?
Absolutely. Because when you are having the conversation with the interviewer, preempting with stories that we've talked about already, accomplishment stories, among others, preempting with the details, you start to own the conversation and it demonstrates truly mastery of yourself, but it also demonstrates mastery of a subject, which is important for the interviewer to hear. And rather than them driving the interview, you're offering the guidance and the opportunity to demonstrate that you want to lead as well. And it shows up, and people absolutely love it. So, yes, the details and knowing them are hugely important, again, to differentiate yourself against your peers who are looking for the same job as you.
I love that. So, Keith, where can students and parents or anyone reach you if they want to learn more about the interview advantage?
Yeah, thank you. So to learn more about the Interview Advantage, you can visit our website, which is interviewadvantage.co, the CO, or you can certainly reach me at keith@interviewadvantage.co.
Awesome. Well, thanks for these little bits of wisdom, Keith. And to anyone who's looking at this process right now, wants to understand more, definitely recommend reaching out to you. So appreciate your time, and I know we'll be talking soon.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.